Ahoy there. Today on the Red Sea, what is the best question you have ever heard a child ask? My son. Hey dad, when are you gonna die? Me. I do not know. Hopefully not for a long time. My son. Oh. Well, when you and mom die, I want new parents. Me. You what? My son. I love you guys, but I need parents. I'm not old enough to use the stove. Very pragmatic for a 4-year-old. I'm a single dad. My wife died when my son was 13 months old. When he was not even 2 yet. Probably around 20 months or so. He looks at me one day and says, "Daddy, where's my mommy?" It completely caught me off guard. I had not expected him to really notice the difference between himself and the other kids at daycare for a lot longer, but it was clear he had noticed that all the other kids had moms and dads, and he wanted to know where his mom was. I do not personally remember it, but my dad always reminds me of the time we were both driving in the car when I was about 7 or 8. We come to a stop at a red light, and out of the blue I ask, "Hey dad, would a shaved baby gorilla look like a really ugly baby? Or would it look like a gorilla?" He peed laughing. I teach swimming lessons. My favorite question has been, when do we learn how to breathe underwater? Where do thoughts come from? I had nothing. This year at Christmas, my aunt wrapped my 3-year-old cousin's present 3 separate times to bug her. After unwrapping the first 2 layers, she looked up at side. "Is this really necessary?" I love when kids make adult comments like that. My cousin was in his booster seat in the back of the car. My nana got into the seat in front of him. He sighed and went, "Nana, your hair's in a right state. You need to get another perm." We were also in the car once driving past a car sales place that had closed down. And he says, "Lilina, did you know that garage went bankrupt? It's under new ownership." I know he was probably just repeating what his dad had told him, but still pretty funny hearing that coming from a kid in a booster seat. When I was in kindergarten, a magician came to our class. He had a handkerchief, and he said he was going to make it disappear into the 4th dimension. One of the kids in my class raised his hand and asked, "ISN, not the 4th dimension time." "What are those? Is this the morning when we wake up? What's a planet?" Asked all at once, then he ran off and pretended to be a superhero. My nephew, 2 years old. We heard a sound come from his room while he was supposed to be in bed, and went to check on him. Head managed to somehow make the talcum powder bottle explode all over him in the room. He tried to pretend nothing had happened, so we put him in front of the mirror. First words, "Uh-oh." Then we ask, "Why did you do that?" His response, "Because I'm sorry." Best answer ever. More of a statement than a question, but epic nonetheless. And an answer we could all use. My little brother once asked, "Why do I have 2 eyes if I only see one thing?" Fairly easy to explain to him now, but that was damn impressive for a 4-year-old. Son. "Daddy, do you like my penis?" Me. It's alright, I guess. "Do you like your penis?" Son. "I think it's great, especially when it gets strong," as he flexed both arms. My 5-year-old son asks me this kind of stuff all of the time. It's amazing to watch their brains grow and their reasoning skills develop. Last week he asked me why flies think gross stuff smells good and good stuff smells gross. I'm thinking, okay, how do I explain this at a kiddie level? When he came up with his own hypothesis, he figured their lungs are upside down. I had to call my wife to tell her. Once, as I was leaving work, I passed a young boy and his mother in line for the cash register. The little boy looked up at his mum and said, "Mummy, what is this?" She replied, "It's a line, sweetie." The kid then looked around, wide-eyed, and shouted, "Oh my god, I'm in a line." I heard a 7-year-old ask if time was real or just something we measured with a clock. Keep an eye on that one. Has the kind that breaks the universe. Not insightful, more what the duck. Shopping at our local supermarket. My 3-year-old, at the time, looks around and suddenly asks, at the only volume he knows, 11, "Daddy, are these all those stupid people?" My 4-year-old brother, "Do people die like flowers do?" My mother almost cried. Not my story, but it still stuck with me. My girlfriend's dad was driving home his son, David, who was then around 7. David was lying on that shelf that most sedans had behind the back seat so that he could watch the stars through the rear mirror. It was completely silent when David says, "I wish people could think of a different word for love so that it was easier to understand. The dad was speechless and kept on driving. My niece. Uncle, how hard do I have to jump so that I do not come back down? Me. Jesus Christ. This kid is asking what her escape velocity is. In the middle of dinner, with no context, what did it feel like on your last day of being a child? My nephews, 3 and 5, are obsessed with their wieners. They were proudly showing them off after a swim and asked to see mine. I explained I had a vagina, not a penis. The littlest one prodded me in the crotch, awkward, and said, "Are you sure?" While on a flight, a little girl turned to me and said, "If the Care Bears live up here, then where does Jesus live?" I had a deep voice for my age at around 16, and looked pretty young as well. One day I was having my hair cut and enjoying a conversation with my hairdresser when a little kid stood up from his seat and walked over to me. He looked up and asked, "Are you a daddy?" Probably because of my voice. Before I could reply, his dad said, "I'm sure he hopes not." A child approached my father, who is 66, and asked, "Mister, are you God?" Boom. Ego boost. If you traveled into the future and killed yourself, would it be murder or suicide? The other day by my friend's 9-year-old. I remember when I was in 3rd or 4th grade science class, I asked my teacher if there is not any air in space, then how does the sun burn? Being the awesome science teacher that she was, she did not hold back anything and told me that it was a nuclear reaction and that it did not need air to happen. I loved that teacher. Fortunately, my science teachers through the years have only gotten better and better. Cookies are baking, and my 3-year-old niece asks, "Are the cookies loading?" Signs of the times. Why do most grown-ups still act like little kids? Amen. How old was that kid? About 4 years old. About 2 days ago, I went to the park to go get some sun and exercise. There is a big pyramid of ropes. It's actually quite cool, and all of the children were playing on it, when all of a sudden I hear a kid ask, "Why are we climbing this?" I just laughed to myself, admitting that it is pretty silly to think that we just put some ropes up for no reason but to climb up, and then climb down. Kids are probably the smartest of us all. They haven't not been tainted by society just yet. When I was about 9, we were at dinner and my older brother, 12, was describing a study about cell phone radiation and its effects on rats' brains. My brother loves science, and he was all worked up about this study. He probably did 10 minutes on it. He was very convinced that everyone was going to get brain cancer. When he was done, my younger brother, then 5, said, "Why would rats even need to use cell phones?" As a camp counselor, I had a cabin of 7 and 8-year-olds for 3 days and 2 nights. On the last day, I'm sitting next to one of the kids, and he asks me, "Nobody, are your parents dead?" I respond, "No. Why do you ask?" He says, "It'd be very sad if my parents were dead. I'm glad yours aren't not either. Let's go swimming." I just sat there for 30 seconds and thought about it. After they left that day, I called my parents and told them I loved them. Kids, man. Ducking crazy bastards. As a fellow camp counselor, I can relate. The kids really evoke lots of deep thoughts and emotions I never thought I would experience. I work at a summer camp for 4th and 5th graders and see the kids daily. Being the only female counselor, I got extra attention from a select few of the little boys that thought they had a crush on me. We went to an MLB game for a field trip, and one of these boys asked me to marry him twice, once in English and once in Whale. Think Finding Nemo. He even presented me with a ring he had made. I remember being in 5th grade. I can assure you that they didn't not just think they had a crush in you. On a trip back from picking apples, my girlfriend's 5-year-old baby brother asks, "What is light made of?" I answered the malarkey out of that question. Answer: rainbows. This is not inspiring, just really tough to answer. Why do brown people get sad when you call them the N-word, if N-word just means brown person? The child is 11, but he has autism, so he is simultaneously exposed to a lot and picks up on a lot, but does not know how to use that social information. From a child I babysit. Also, why are your boobs bigger than my mom's? Because his little sister did not have boobs, but older women did. He was under the impression that they grew constantly bigger and bigger and were relative to age. A coworker of mine just had her second kid. Her 4-year-old asked, while she was breastfeeding, "Why can not the baby drink out of dad's boobies?" I do not remember her answer. I was laughing too hard. My older sister is a kindergarten teacher, and every now and then I would come to her class to help with the kids. One day she was reading them a story about animals, and this one child who has very liberal parents that like for him to be exposed to mature concepts at an early age, says, "Miss C, did you know that dolphins have smash like people?" Referring to promiscuity. She thinks she successfully disarmed the comment before other kids could ask questions. But one slightly less bright youngster says, "Miss C, do sharks bang dolphins?" Referring to them hitting each other. Contextually, his question was hilarious and my sister and I could not stop laughing. Me, 3 or 4 years old. To our African American neighbor, "Is your pee-pee black too? Oh god why dot. Upon meeting the first black child she'd ever interacted with, my 3-year-old sister asked, "Are you related to Oprah?" The girl was the same age and looked back at her mother and really excitedly asked Mom, "Are we related to Oprah?" My mother meanwhile was likely dying on the inside. If you are reading this, you made it until the end of the video. Click the thumbs up button since you made it until the end. Bam. On screen there should be some more videos similar to this. So either go do something else or watch more videos. That's about it. There is no more here. What are you waiting for, a secret message or something? Okay. This is not a secret, but subscribe for more videos like this.